The massive conference hall on Station Alpha 1 fell silent as the alien representatives stared at the holographic display. It showed a small blue planet ships venturing into the darkness between stars, the void that had claimed countless lives throughout galactic history. The aliens' expressions ranged from horror to disbelief as they watched these primitive vessels move through unmapped space without fear. "Impossible," muttered High Commander Rax, his crystalline form shimmering with anxiety. "These humans travel through the dark spaces as if they were walking through a garden." His three eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress among his species. The human representative, Captain Marcus Stone, stood calmly before the Galactic Council. At 53 years old, his gray-streaked hair and weathered face spoke of countless hours spent in the void. He watched the alien reactions with interest, having not expected such fear from these advanced civilizations. "I don't understand," Marcus said, keeping his voice steady. "You're saying that in your 10,000 years of space travel, none of you explore beyond the map planes?" The room erupted in nervous chatter. A tall, bird-like creature named First Speaker Pell stepped forward, her feathers ruffled in distress. "Captain Stone, surely you understand. The void is death. It is madness. We lost entire fleets in the early days. Now we use only the safe lanes, paths between stars that we have carefully mapped over millennia." Marcus looked at the massive star map floating above them. The safe lanes glowed like bright highways between systems, leaving vast dark areas untouched. Humanity had been wondering why they found so few alien ships in their explorations. Now they knew. Everyone else was too scared to venture into the unknown. "But how do you explore new systems?" Marcus asked. "How do you expand?" "We don't," answered Rax flatly. "We have enough. The void has taught us to be content with what we have. In the last 1,000 years, we have lost only 3 ships. All of them strayed from the safe lanes." Marcus walked to the holographic display and pointed to Earth's section of space. In just 200 years, humanity had spread out in all directions, creating a sphere of explored systems that amazed the alien representatives. On Earth, we have a saying, "Nothing ventured, nothing gained." Yes, we've lost ships too. Space is dangerous, but we learn from each loss. We adapt, we improve. The aliens watched in horror as Marcus played recordings from human exploration missions. Ships diving into unmapped zones, crews taking readings of strange phenomena, rescue missions venturing far from known space to save stranded vessels. To humanity, this was normal. To the galactic community, it was madness. "Your species is young," First Speaker Pell said softly. "You haven't yet learned to fear the void. When you lose enough ships, enough lives, you will learn as we did." Marcus smiled and pulled up another recording, this one from his own ship, the Wanderlust. "With respect, First Speaker, we have learned something different. Watch." The recording showed the Wanderlust encountering a massive space anomaly, a swirling vortex of energy that the aliens recognized as a void storm, one of the phenomena they feared most. But instead of running, the human ship moved closer. They launched probes, took readings, and eventually found a safe path through it. "The void isn't empty," Marcus explained. "It's full of patterns, energy, and yes, dangers. But with careful study and the right tools, it can be understood. Maybe not completely, but enough to explore safely." The council chamber remained quiet for a long moment. Finally, High Commander Rax spoke again. "You are either the bravest or the most foolish species we have ever encountered, Captain Stone." Marcus looked at the vast dark spaces between the safe lanes on the star map. Territories that held whom knew what wonders and discoveries. "Maybe we're a bit of both, Commander, but we're also explorers, and we're not going to stop." As the council session ended, Marcus could hear the aliens whispering among themselves. The humans were different. They didn't fear the void. They challenged it. And in doing so, they might change everything the galactic community thought they knew about space travel. The age of hiding in safe lanes was coming to an end. Humanity had arrived, and with them came a new way of thinking about the greatest frontier of all, the void between the stars. 3 months after the shocking council meeting, Dr. Ada Reed stood in her laboratory aboard the research station Horizon, surrounded by holographic displays of void data. Her latest breakthrough in void mapping had attracted attention from across the galaxy, though not all of it welcome. "You can't be serious," said Ambassador Trill, his scaled skin shifting colors from green to pale blue, a sign of extreme disbelief. "You're saying your mapping technology is intentionally primitive." Ada smiled as she adjusted her simple sensor array, a device that would have looked ancient to most alien engineers. At 45, she had spent decades studying the void, and her gray eyes sparkled with the excitement of sharing her discoveries. "Not primitive, Ambassador. Focused. Your advanced sensors try to measure everything at once. Sometimes, less is more." She pressed a button, and the room filled with a new hologram, a swirling map of energy currents in nearby unmapped space. "Look here. Your ships can't see these patterns because your sensors are too sensitive. They get overwhelmed by background noise." The ambassador leaned forward, his three-fingered hand reaching out to touch the hologram. "But these are just random energy fluctuations, meaningless chaos." "That's where you're wrong," came a voice from the doorway. Captain Marcus Stone walked in, fresh from another successful void expedition. "Dr. Reed, show him the navigation charts." Ada overlaid a series of human space routes onto the energy map. The alien ambassador's eyes widened as he saw how the routes followed the energy patterns perfectly. "Impossible," he whispered. "You're using the chaos to navigate." "Not chaos," Ada corrected, bringing up more data. "These energy flows are like rivers in space. They're consistent, predictable, if you know how to look for them. Your advanced ships try to force their way through space. We follow its natural paths." Marcus picked up a small handheld sensor, something that looked more like an old Earth compass than a space navigation tool. "This device costs less than a day's meals on your homeworld, Ambassador. But it can detect these void currents better than your most expensive sensors." The ambassador's color shifted again, this time to deep purple, a sign of deep thought among his people. "But what about the void storms? The anomalies that have destroyed so many ships?" Ada's face lit up. She pressed another button, and a hologram zoomed in on what looked like a massive swirling vortex. "Watch this recording from last week. Tom Wells, one of our best navigators, found something fascinating." The recording showed a small human ship approaching the storm. Instead of avoiding it, the ship circled the edges, dropping simple probe devices. As data flowed in, a pattern emerged in the storm's behavior. "The void storms follow rules," Ada explained. "They're not random destruction. They're more like weather patterns in space. With these simple sensors, we can predict them, sometimes even use them to travel faster than normal." The ambassador stepped back, his scales now a mix of colors that reflected his conflicting emotions. "This goes against everything we know about space travel." Marcus smiled. "Maybe that's the problem, Ambassador. You've all been so focused on avoiding the void that you never really try to understand it." Just then, an alarm sounded. Ada rushed to her console, her fingers flying over the controls. "Speaking of understanding, we're picking up something big. About 3 light-years out, in unmapped space." The hologram shifted to show a massive energy disturbance, unlike anything they'd seen before. Marcus leaned in, studying the patterns with experienced eyes. "Those look like distress signal harmonics," he said quietly. "Someone's out there, in trouble." The ambassador's scales paled. In that region, it's impossible to reach them. The void currents there are too unpredictable. Ada and Marcus shared a look. They both knew what this meant. Another chance to prove that humanity's approach to the void wasn't just different, it was necessary. "Actually, Ambassador," Ada said, already gathering her equipment, "those unpredictable currents might be exactly what we need to save whoever's out there. Want to see how humans handle a real void rescue? The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council erupted into chaos as the holographic display showed the missing ship's last known position. The vessel, carrying over 3,000 refugees from a dying star system, had vanished in unmapped space while trying to take a shortcut between safe lanes. "We cannot mount a rescue mission," declared High Commander Rax, his crystalline form dulled with sadness. "The area is too dangerous. We would lose more ships and lives." Marcus Stone stood at the center of the council chamber, his fists clenched. Next to him, Dr. Ada Reed worked frantically on her portable sensor array, analyzing the data streams. 3,000 people, Marcus said, his voice cutting through the noise. 3,000 lives, and you're willing to write them off as acceptable losses. First Speaker Pell's feathers drooped. "Captain Stone, you don't understand. That region has claimed hundreds of ships over the centuries. It's a black zone. No safe lanes, no map routes, nothing but void storms and quantum eddies." "He's right," Ada spoke up, drawing everyone's attention. She projected her findings into the air. "The region is incredibly unstable. But look at these patterns." She pointed to swirling energy flows that seemed to form a complex web. "These aren't random. There's a path through." Tom Wells, the young navigation officer who had been quietly studying the data, stepped forward. "The refugee ship's distress beacon is creating ripples in the void currents. We can use those ripples to track them." The alien representatives muttered among themselves. Ambassador Trill spoke up, his scales showing patterns of deep concern. "Even if you could find them, how would you get a rescue fleet through such dangerous space?" Marcus smiled grimly. "The same way humanity has always done it, one careful step at a time." He turned to Ada. "Doctor, how many ships do we need?" Ada ran quick calculations on her simple device. 3. Small ones, highly maneuverable. The void currents are too twisted for anything bigger. "Impossible," shouted one of the council members. "You'll never get authorization for a suicide mission." Marcus straightened his uniform and faced the council. "With all due respect, we're not asking for authorization. We're informing you of our intention to rescue those people. Humanity doesn't abandon those in need, not even in the void." The chamber fell silent. First Speaker Pell stepped down from her podium and approached the humans. "You understand that if you do this, you do it alone. The council cannot risk any ships or crews." "We understand," Tom said, already pulling up navigation charts on his handheld device. "But you might want to watch closely. You might learn something about what the void really is." Within hours, 3 human ships prepared for launch from Station Alpha 1. The Wanderlust, led by Captain Stone. The Horizon, with Dr. Reed and her research team. And the Swift, with Tom Wells at the helm, their best void current navigator. As they made final preparations, Ambassador Trill approached the launch bay. His scales had shifted to a color the humans had never seen before. "What does that color mean?" Ada asked quietly. The ambassador touched his scales self-consciously. "There is no word for it in your language. The closest might be hope, mixed with fear, mixed with something else." He looked at the 3 small ships. "Our people have feared the void for so long, we forgot what it means to challenge it." Marcus checked his old-style compass one last time. "Sometimes the biggest discoveries come when we face our fears, Ambassador. Keep a channel open. You'll want to see what happens next." The launch bay doors opened to the star-filled blackness beyond. 3 human ships, tiny against the vastness of space, prepared to venture where no alien ship had dared go in centuries. "All ships, report ready status," Marcus called over the comm. "Horizon ready," Ada responded. "Void current patterns mapped and locked." "Swift ready," Tom confirmed. "Navigation protocols set." Marcus took one last look at the gathered alien representatives, their faces showing a mix of horror and admiration. "Then let's go show the galaxy why humans don't fear the void." Launch in 3, 2, 1. 6 hours into the rescue mission, the 3 human ships moved through space like dancers following an invisible rhythm. The Wanderlust led, with the Swift and Horizon flanking it in a triangle formation. Their simple sensors painted a picture of the void that the galaxy's most advanced ships had never seen. Energy current shifting 30 degrees port. Tom's voice crackled over the comm from the Swift. His ship adjusted smoothly, riding the invisible wave like a surfer on Earth's oceans. Captain, you seeing these readings? Marcus watched the patterns flow across his basic display screen aboard the Wanderlust. I see them, Tom. Ada, what are we looking at? In the Horizon's research bay, Dr. Reed studied the swirling data with growing excitement. It's beautiful, she breathed. The void isn't empty at all. It's like a living thing. The ships passed through curtains of quantum energy that would have overwhelmed advanced alien sensors. But the humans' simple equipment showed clear paths through the chaos. Streams of void current flowed around them like rivers in space, carrying them deeper into unmapped territory. New contact, Marcus announced suddenly. Something big, about 2 light minutes ahead. The void around them sparkled with strange lights, phenomena that the alien races had always fled from. But through their basic sensors, the humans saw patterns in the chaos. The lights weren't random. They were reactions to something moving through the currents. Those are wake traces, Tom said, his voice tight with concentration as he guided the Swift through a particularly dense energy flow. Something big passed through here, leaving ripples in the void currents. Has to be the refugee ship. Ada's voice came through, filled with discovery. The quantum disturbances we're seeing, they're like footprints in snow. The refugee ship's passage left marks in the void's energy field. We can track them. The 3 ships pressed on, following the trail. Around them, space itself seemed to come alive. Colors no human eye had seen before danced across their viewports. Energy patterns shifted and flowed, revealing new pathways with each passing moment. Void storm forming ahead, Tom warned. The space before them began to swirl with dangerous energy, a phenomenon that had destroyed countless alien ships over the centuries. But Marcus smiled. Look at the pattern, crew. It's not random. Ada, remember that simulator you built? The one that showed how water flows around rocks. Of course, Ada exclaimed. The void storm isn't blocking our path. It's showing us the way through. The energy has to flow somewhere. If we follow the currents, we can ride the storm instead of fighting it. Tom finished, already adjusting his ship's course. The 3 human vessels did something no alien ship had ever attempted. They flew straight into the void storm. But instead of trying to power through it, they followed its natural flows and eddies. Their simple sensors, freed from the confusion of too much data, showed them exactly where to go. Signal getting stronger, Marcus reported as they emerged from the storm. That's definitely the refugee ship's beacon. Distance, 1 light minute and closing. Through their viewports, they could now see something floating in the distance. A massive ship, dark and silent, caught in a web of void currents that held it like a fly in amber. Life signs? Ada asked, her instruments probing the stranded vessel. Strong, Marcus confirmed. They're alive in there. Tom, can you plot us a safe approach through these currents? The young navigator's fingers danced across his simple control panel. Already on it, Captain. The void's actually helping us. These currents are like a road leading right to them. As they drew closer to the refugee ship, Ada made one final scan of the surrounding space. What she saw made her catch her breath. Captain, these readings. The void isn't just letting us rescue them. It's almost like it's been waiting for someone to try. All these patterns, these flows, they've always been here. We're just the first ones to read them properly. Marcus nodded, understanding dawning in his eyes. Then let's show the galaxy what they've been missing all these centuries. Prepare for rescue operations. It's time to bring these people home. The refugee ship loomed before them, its massive hull reflecting the strange lights of the void currents. 3,000 lives waited inside, trapped in a place where no alien rescue ship had dared to venture. But the human vessels had made it, and now came the hard part. Quantum eddy approaching from starboard. Tom reported from the Swift, his eyes fixed on his simple navigation display. It's like nothing we've seen before. Ada's voice crackled through the comm, filled with sudden understanding. Wait, don't avoid it. Look at the pattern. It's not random. The void currents are creating a stable pathway right to the refugee ship's docking ports. Marcus studied his old-style compass, watching as it responded to the swirling energies around them. She's right. The void isn't fighting us anymore. It's helping us. The 3 human ships rode the quantum eddy like leaves in a stream. Their basic sensors, unburdened by complex technology, showed them exactly how to move with the flow instead of against it. As they drew closer to the refugee ship, Ada's instruments began picking up more detailed readings. "Captain," she called, excitement in her voice. "These patterns, they're mathematical. Perfect sequences, repeating through the void currents. It's not chaos at all. It's a language." Tom's hands moved smoothly over his controls as the Swift lined up with one of the refugee ship's emergency airlocks. "A language? You mean the void is trying to communicate?" "Not exactly," Ada explained, her gray eyes bright with discovery. "Think of it like music. The void currents flow in harmony. The advanced alien sensors were like trying to hear a symphony by analyzing each sound wave separately. Our simple equipment lets us hear the whole song at once." Marcus guided the Wanderlust toward another airlock. That's why the aliens never understood it. They were too focused on the details to see the bigger picture. The rescue operation began. Using the void currents to stabilize their approach, the 3 human ships extended docking tubes to the refugee vessel. The currents that had trapped the larger ship now helped hold the smaller one steady. "First group of refugees coming through now," Tom reported. "They can't believe we made it through the void to reach them." Ada continued scanning the surrounding space, her simple sensors revealing more patterns with each passing moment. "Look at this data. The void isn't empty or chaotic. It's full of these mathematical sequences. They're like stepping stones across a river. They've always been there, waiting for someone to see them." "But why didn't the aliens' advanced technology pick this up?" Marcus asked as he supervised the transfer of refugees to his ship. "Because they were afraid," Ada replied softly. "They built their sensors to warn them about dangers, to help them avoid the void. We built ours to understand it. Sometimes the simplest tools are the best ones for discovery." The rescue continued for hours. The void currents remained stable, their patterns now clearly visible to the human ship's basic instruments. What alien races had feared for millennia was revealing itself to be not a monster, but a marvel. "Last group of refugees secured," Tom announced finally. "All 3,000 accounted for, ready to begin our return journey." Marcus looked at his navigation display, where the void currents flowed like rivers of light. "Ada, can you send this data back to the Galactic Council? They need to see what we found." "Already done," she replied. "But Captain, there's more. These patterns we're seeing, they're not just here. They're everywhere in space. The whole galaxy is connected by these currents. We've just been the first ones to see them properly." The 3 ships, now heavy with rescued refugees, began their journey home. But they weren't fighting against the void anymore. They were flowing with it, following paths that had always existed, waiting for someone brave enough, or simple enough, to find them. "You know what this means," Tom said quietly. "Everything changes now. The whole galaxy changes." Marcus smiled as he watched the void currents guide them home. "That's what humans do best, Tom. We change things, and it's about time the void had some company." The grand hall of Station Alpha 1 was packed beyond capacity. Representatives from every spacefaring race had gathered to witness something unprecedented, a presentation about the true nature of the void. At the center of the stage stood Dr. Ada Reed, Captain Marcus Stone, and Navigator Tom Wells, the humans who had changed everything. "The data doesn't lie," Ada said, projecting the void current patterns above the stunned audience. "What you're seeing isn't chaos. It's a network, as complex and organized as any space lane you've mapped." High Commander Rax's crystalline form shimmered with mixed emotions. "But our best scientists, our most advanced sensors, were too complex," Tom interrupted, holding up his simple navigation device. "Sometimes you need to step back to see the whole picture. Your sensors see everything. Ours see what matters." The holographic display shifted, showing the rescue mission's journey through the void. The alien audience watched in amazement as the three human ships rode the energy currents like boats on a river, following patterns that had always been there but never understood. "We've already started training other crews," Marcus announced. "Both human and alien. The void isn't our enemy. It's a road network waiting to be used. And everyone in this room can learn to navigate it." First Speaker Pell stepped forward, her feathers quivering with excitement. "You mean to tell us that what we've feared for thousands of years has actually been trying to help us travel?" Ada nodded, bringing up new data streams. "The void currents form natural highways between stars. They're faster than your safe lanes, more efficient, and they're everywhere. We just needed to learn how to read them." An alien scientist raised his tentacles in question. "But the void storms, the quantum eddies that destroyed so many ships." "Watch this," Tom said, activating a simulation. It showed how void storms actually created stable pathways when approached correctly. "They're like wind patterns, dangerous if you fight them, but useful if you know how to work with them." The audience murmured as they watched the simulation. Thousands of years of fear began to give way to something new, possibility. Ambassador Trill, his scales now shimmering with bright colors of excitement, spoke up. "The refugee rescue wasn't just a miracle, was it? You proved something we all thought impossible. We proved that sometimes the simplest solution is the best one," Marcus replied. "Humanity's primitive approach to space travel turned out to be exactly what was needed. We didn't try to conquer the void. We tried to understand it." Ada stepped forward, her eyes bright with purpose. "We're establishing a new school, the Void Navigation Academy, open to all species. We'll teach what we've learned, share our technology." She smiled. "Our simple technology." The hall erupted in excited discussion. Representatives from dozens of worlds stood up, volunteering their people to be among the first students. "Think about it," Tom added, his voice carrying over the crowd. "No more hiding in safe lanes. No more year-long detours around dangerous space. The whole galaxy just got a lot smaller and a lot more interesting." First Speaker Pell raised her wings for silence. "The Galactic Council has reached a decision. Humanity will lead this new age of exploration. Your understanding of the void has earned you this right." Marcus shook his head. "Not lead, guide. We all have something to learn from each other. Humans might understand the void, but your peoples have thousands of years of space travel experience. Together, we can do amazing things." As the session ended, Ambassador Trill approached the three humans. "You've changed everything," he said simply. "Our children will grow up without fearing the void." Ada looked out at the crowd of aliens, eagerly examining the simple sensor devices being distributed. "Fear comes from not understanding," she said. "Once you understand something, it stops being scary and starts being fascinating." The void, once a source of terror and legend, was becoming something new in the galaxy's consciousness. Not an enemy to be avoided, but a frontier to be explored. And it had taken humanity's straightforward approach to unlock its secrets. "So," Tom asked with a grin, "who's ready for their first void navigation lesson?" 5 years after the historic refugee rescue, the void between stars had become a very different place. The Void Navigation Academy, built in Earth's orbit, had graduated its 1,000th class of students from across the galaxy. Ships of all shapes and sizes now followed the once invisible currents through space, guided by simple human design sensors. Marcus Stone, now Admiral of the Joint Exploration Fleet, stood at the Academy's observation deck watching vessels practice their void current navigation. Among them was a crystalline ship from Commander Rax's people, flowing smoothly through a complex pattern of energy streams. "They're getting better at it than we are," Tom Wells said, joining his old captain at the window. Now the Academy's head instructor, he had taught void navigation to beings from hundreds of worlds. "That's exactly what we hoped for," Marcus replied with a smile. "Every species brings their own understanding to it. The void has room for everyone." In her research laboratory below the Academy, Dr. Ada Reed worked with a team of mixed species, their simple sensors revealing new patterns every day. A holographic map showed thousands of void currents crisscrossing the galaxy, creating a network more complex and beautiful than the old safe lanes ever were. "Another trading route discovered," announced her alien assistant, a bird-like being from First Speaker Pell's world. "This one cuts the journey time to the outer rim by 60%. Ada nodded, marking the new route on their growing map. "And to think, these pathways were always there. We just needed to learn how to see them." The Academy's main hangar buzzed with activity as the first joint exploration fleet prepared for launch. Ships from 20 different species, all equipped with human-style simple sensors, ready to venture into the deepest unmapped regions of space. Ambassador Trill, his scales glowing with pride, watched his people's ship join the fleet. "My grandfather would never have believed this," he said to Marcus. "Our children now dream of being void explorers. The thing we feared most has become our greatest adventure." "That's the thing about fear," Marcus replied. "Sometimes it's just telling you where to look closer." The fleet launch ceremony drew representatives from across the galaxy. First Speaker Pell took the podium, her feathers shimmering in the starlight that streamed through the station's windows. "5 years ago, humanity showed us that what we thought was our greatest weakness was actually our greatest opportunity," she announced. "Today, we take the next step together. The Joint Exploration Fleet will map the void currents to the galaxy's edge and beyond." Tom stepped forward with a group of his latest graduates, humans and aliens together, all wearing the silver insignia of certified void navigators. "Remember," he told them, "the void isn't empty or chaotic. It's like an ocean. Respect it, learn from it, and it will carry you to amazing places." The launch countdown began. In the observation deck, Ada joined Marcus and Tom, watching as the fleet of ships positioned themselves within the void currents. "Did you ever think," she asked, "when we went on that rescue mission, that we'd end up here?" Marcus shook his head. "I just wanted to save those people. But that's how the biggest changes often start, with someone just trying to do the right thing." The fleet lifted off, each ship falling perfectly into formation with the void currents. Their simple sensors worked in harmony, reading the patterns that had been invisible for so long. As they accelerated away from the station, their shapes began to blur with distance until they looked like stars themselves, moving through the darkness with purpose and understanding. "You know what the best part is?" Tom said quietly. "Every ship out there is carrying our basic sensors, but they're all using them differently. Every species is finding their own way to work with the void." Etta smiled as she watched the fleet disappear into the distance. "That's what makes it perfect. We didn't conquer the void. We just showed everyone how to listen to it. The rest they figured out for themselves." The void, once a barrier that divided the galaxy, had become a bridge that united it. And somewhere out there, in the endless currents of space, new discoveries waited for those brave enough, or simple enough, to find them. "So," Marcus asked, his eyes on the stars, "where should we explore next?"